Hi, welcome back. We are still working on exploratory data analysis of one variable at a time, so univariate analysis, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into how you can look at changes within one variable over time. So this technically might be considered two variables at a time because we're going to look at percent with sufficient data to drink compared to time. But really, in terms of substantive variables, we're looking at the relationship of people who have enough to drink over time. So, but we're still with our Sustainable Society Index data, and we're going to drag the percent sufficient to drink over to the shelf, and we'll take it as an average rather than a sum. And we also want to look at time and country. So first we're going to drag country over to the columns shelf, and we'll follow that by dragging year over to the column shelf. So now we're looking at how the percent sufficient to drink variable changes over time within countries, which is very important if we want to look at the way that water changes over time. So make sure that you still have your notebook beside you or your Word document on a separate screen so you can take notes, because this is really the key part of your story. We're looking for a story based on water and sustainability and the equity of access to water over time. So change over time is important. Change is usually where some of the very best data journalism stories are. How the same variable changes over time is usually a nice, reliable indicator that can tell a good story, especially if you can dig down and tease out the nuance of that story. So we're going to look at how it changes each year, and we're going to look at two kinds of change. We're going to look at how the absolute change is for each year and what the relative change is for each year. And there's times to use each one, so it's important to know how to calculate absolute change and relative change. Two basic options. So the first thing we're going to do here in Tableau is look at absolute change. So percent with sufficient water to drink is our variable of interest. We're actually going to use it as a label as well as the row variable. So drag percent sufficient to drink over to the label, and you can see now that the percent is displayed within each country. So what we want to see is how that is changing each year. So with the percent sufficient to drink here in the label part, so you right click or click this little downward arrow until you get the options, and we are going to choose quick table calculation. There are many types of calculations that you can do within Tableau once you're very used to using it and customizing it. But for right now, we're going to use the quick table calculations, and we're going to choose difference. So the difference is how the percent is changing for each year. And you can see that our labels have now changed to show that it's subtracting. So it's subtracting this from this, and this from this, and this from this. But you can see right away that there's a bit of a problem because Tableau is subtracting Algeria 2006 to see how different that is from Albania 2016. So that's not really a very helpful calculation because we don't want to know how the between country change is not meaningful in this setting. So again, we'll double click here on the label of percent sufficient to drink, and instead of quick table calculations, we'll go to compute using and relative to. So these are controlling exactly what formula Tableau is using to calculate the change over time. So we want to compute using the pane. So that the pane is the large categorical variable. So in our case, the pane is the country. So choose pane, and you can see immediately that this is working much better because the first column in each country no longer has a calculation, and that's because the calculations are within the country now. And so instead of Algeria 2016 being compared to Albania 2016, It's just leaving this blank because it knows that 2006 is the first year for Algeria, and it's subtracting 2008 Algeria with 2006 Algeria. And same thing here, Angola 2006 is no longer being compared with Algeria 2016. So it's good to, at each change in Tableau, take a close look and make sure that the calculations that are happening are the calculations that you think are happening. And so that was us changing the compute using option. And the other option that's important is the relative to. So right now we have relative to previous, which is perfect. So it's subtracting 1 year from the next, and we can see how much it's changing each every other year, because that's how the data is being collected. However, we might be more interested in how the country has changed from 2006 to 2016. So instead of maybe seeing a change every other year, we might just be interested in seeing the one big change. So we go here, relative to, and relative to the first. That's a little counterintuitive. Sometimes I get that wrong and I pick last, but it's really relative to the first. So now it is calculating how much change each year is having relative to the very first year. So Albania 2008 changed 0.1 from 2006. Albania 2010 changed 0.3 from 2006, so on and so on. Albania 2016 changed an entire percentage point from 2006. So this is a different kind of calculation where you're looking at change from the baseline year. You might not want this as a bar chart. You might want this as a line chart, so you can set your marks to be however you want. A line might be a more comfortable way for you to look at this. There's many other options, of course, sometimes circles. I personally like the lines here because this is showing me two information. This is showing me the actual percentage each year for the country, and then it's also showing me the change from the baseline. And so that's the absolute change.